He said he'd pay me back. He said we were a team. That every late-night shift I worked, every dollar I saved every weekend, I skipped out on fun to cover rent and textbooks for him. It was for our future. Turns out our future didn't include me. My name is Naomi Pierce. I'm 35 now, but when I met Ethan, I was 24, working 2 jobs and barely scraping by in Chicago. He was 26, fresh into his first year of medical school at Northwestern, bright-eyed, and full of dreams that seemed bigger than both of us. I met him at Brew and Bean, the coffee shop, where I pulled morning shifts before heading to my afternoon job at a medical billing company. He came in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:47 a.m. sharp, always with messy notes scattered across 3 different notebooks, and eyes that looked like he'd been up all night. He ordered the same thing, a large caramel macchiato, with an extra shot and a blueberry muffin. The first time he smiled at me, really smiled, not just the polite customer service exchange, I felt something shift in my chest. "Long night?" I asked, nodding toward his anatomy textbook. "You could say that. I'm pretty sure I've memorized every bone in the human body, except the ones that actually matter for tomorrow's exam." I laughed. He had this way of making even his stress sound charming. "Well, caffeine and carbs are the foundation of medical education, right?" "Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that's what they taught Hippocrates." That was it. That stupid joke about ancient Greek physicians, I was gone. He started coming in earlier, staying longer. We'd talk during the slow moments between the morning rush and the lunch crowd. He told me about growing up in a small town in Ohio, where his dad worked at the auto plant and his mom cleaned houses. How he was the first in his family to go to college, let alone medical school. "My dad thinks I'm crazy," he said one morning, stirring sugar into his coffee. "Keeps asking when I'm going to get a real job. Saving lives isn't real enough. Not when you're drowning in loans and living off ramen." I understood that feeling. I'd been living off ramen since I was 18. He made me feel seen in a way no one had before. When I mentioned I'd always wanted to go back to school, maybe study business or marketing, he didn't laugh or change the subject like most people did. He leaned forward, genuinely interested. "What's stopping you?" "Time, money, life, I guess. Those are just obstacles, not roadblocks. You're too smart to let them win." The way he said it with such certainty made me believe it might actually be true. We started dating 3 months later. Our first real date was at a 24-hour diner near campus, because it was the only place we could afford, and the only time we were both free. I'd just gotten off a double shift and he'd finished a study group that ran until midnight. "This is glamorous," I said, sliding into the cracked vinyl booth. "Hey, they have unlimited coffee refills. That's basically luxury." We stayed until 4 a.m. talking about everything and nothing. He told me about the cadaver he was studying, how weird it was to learn about life by examining death. I told him about the dreams I'd put on hold, the ones that felt further away every year. "Dreams don't have expiration dates," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "And you're going to do amazing things. I can feel it." I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. We moved in together 8 months later. His studio apartment was barely big enough for 1 person, let alone 2, but we made it work. I slept on the pull-out couch most nights because he needed the bed for studying textbooks spread across every surface, highlighters, and index cards, creating a maze of medical knowledge. That's when the financial reality hit. His loans covered tuition and basic living expenses, but barely. There were always extras, updated textbooks that cost $400 each, medical equipment he needed for labs, review courses for board exams. His part-time research position paid next to nothing. I didn't mind picking up the slack at first. I loved him, and love meant being a team, right? I started working longer shifts at the coffee shop, picked up weekend hours at the medical billing company. When that wasn't enough, I took a third job cleaning offices downtown. I'd work until 2 a.m., come home to find Ethan asleep over his books, and feel this strange mix of exhaustion and pride. We were building something together. Second year brought the USMLE Step 1 exam. The review course alone cost $2,800. His anxiety about the test was consuming him. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, snapped at me over the smallest things. I can't fail this, Naomi. If I don't pass, everything we've worked for is gone. I took out a credit card to pay for the course. We'll figure it out, I told him. This is temporary. He passed with a score in the 90th percentile. The relief on his face when the results came in made every extra shift worth it. He picked me up and spun me around our tiny kitchen, both of us crying and laughing. We did it, he said. We actually did it. That word meant everything to me. Third year meant clinical rotations. Some were local, but the good ones, the ones that would look impressive on his residency applications, were scattered across the country. Surgery in Boston, cardiology in Los Angeles, emergency medicine in Miami, travel expenses, temporary housing meals when the hospital cafeteria was closed. My credit card debt started climbing into territory that kept me awake at night. I missed my brother David's wedding in Portland because Ethan had a cardiothoracic surgery rotation in Houston that same weekend, and we couldn't afford both the travel to Portland and his expenses in Texas. I'm so sorry, I told David over the phone. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Naomi, when does this end? When do you get to live your life? I didn't have an answer. Ethan was apologetic but firm. This rotation could determine my entire career. Dr. Morrison only takes 2 students per year, and he's already said he might write me a recommendation letter. You understand, right? I understood. I always understood. Fourth year brought interview season. Medical schools don't prepare you for the cost of residency interviews. Flights to 12 different cities. Hotel rooms. Interview suits. Thank you cards. It added up to thousands more. I was working 60 hours a week across 3 jobs, living off protein bars and whatever samples the medical office gave away. I'd lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose, but Ethan was too stressed to notice. Just a few more months, he'd say when I looked ready to collapse. Once I match, everything changes. We'll finally have a real income. Match day was March 15th. He got his first choice emergency medicine at UCLA. The whole auditorium erupted when students opened their envelopes. Ethan was beaming, hugging classmates, posing for photos with his match letter. I stood in the back, clapping until my hands were numb, thinking about how we'd finally made it to the other side. Graduation was May 18th. I bought his first white coat 3 weeks before the ceremony. Real doctor's quality, not the cheap student version. I had Dr. Ethan Michael Vale embroidered on the chest pocket in navy blue thread. The coat cost $180. I put it on my credit card. The graduation ceremony was beautiful. Ethan looked so proud walking across that stage, shaking hands with the dean, officially becoming a doctor. I was in the 3rd row crying happy tears, thinking about how far we'd come. Afterward, we went to dinner at Alinea, the fancy restaurant we'd always talked about, but never could afford. I'd saved for months to make the reservation. This is incredible, Ethan said, looking around at the molecular gastronomy and artistic presentations. I can't believe we're finally here. Something in his tone felt off, but I attributed it to nerves. Residency was starting in 2 months. Everything was about to change. I'm so proud of you, I said, reaching across the table for his hand. We did something amazing. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. 3 days later, he asked if we could talk. We were in our apartment, well, my apartment now, since I'd been paying the rent alone for 2 years. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, looking anywhere but at me. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," he started. My stomach dropped. "Residency is going to be intense. 80-hour weeks, call schedules, constant pressure. I need to focus completely on becoming the best doctor I can be." "Okay," I said slowly. "We'll figure it out. Long distance isn't ideal, but—" "No, Naomi, you don't understand." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I think we should break up." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stepped backward. "What? This isn't working anymore. We want different things. You wouldn't understand the pressure I'm under. 7 years. 7 years of supporting him, believing in him, sacrificing for him. I wouldn't understand, Ethan. I've been living this with you. Every exam, every rotation, It's not the same thing. You don't know what it's like to have this level of responsibility." I stared at him, this man I'd loved and supported and built my entire adult life around, and realized I was looking at a stranger. "When did you decide this?" "It's been building for a while." "How long?" "Since match day, maybe before." He'd known for months. While I was planning our future in Los Angeles, saving for the move, researching apartments and job opportunities, he'd already decided I wasn't part of the picture. "I need you to move out," he said quietly. "I'm flying to LA next week to find a place, and I need time to pack. Move out." Of the apartment I'd been paying for, to make room for him to pack the life I'd financed. I moved in with my friend Jessica that weekend. Ethan packed everything except the white coat. It was hanging in the closet when I came back for the last of my things. "You forgot this," I said, holding it out to him. "Keep it," he said without looking up from his boxes. "I'll get a new one at the hospital." I wanted to throw it at him. Instead, I folded it carefully and put it in my car. The first month was brutal. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't concentrate at work. I'd invested 7 years of my life, accumulated $47,000 in credit card debt, and given up countless opportunities, all for a future that evaporated the moment he got what he wanted. Jessica found me crying in the kitchen at 3 a.m. 2 weeks after the breakup. "You need to get angry," she said, sitting down next to me. "Stop being sad and start being furious." "I am angry." "No, you're heartbroken. There's a difference. Heartbroken means you think you lost something valuable. Angry means you realize you were robbed." Oh, she was right. The anger came slowly then, all at once. I wasn't heartbroken. I was furious. Furious at him for using me. Furious at myself for letting him. Furious at the 7 years I'd never get back. But anger, I discovered, could be fuel. I started small. Enrolled in a digital marketing course at the community college. Used my medical billing experience to understand healthcare companies, then learned how to help them reach patients online. My first freelance client was a dermatology practice that needed help with their website. I charged $500 for something that took me 20 hours, but it was a start. My second client referred me to a dental office. The dental office referred me to a plastic surgery practice. Within 6 months, I had 8 regular clients and was making more than I'd ever made working 3 jobs. I moved out of Jessica's place and into my own apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I paid for it myself with money I'd earned using my own skills. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Year 2, I started my own agency. Pierce Digital Marketing specialized in healthcare companies. I understood their world, their challenges, their patient base. I knew how to translate medical complexity into clear, compelling content. I hired my first employee in month 6. Sarah was a recent college graduate with a marketing degree and student loans that reminded me of myself at 24. "I can't pay you much to start." I told her during the interview. That's okay, she said. I'm here to learn. By December, I was able to give her a 40% raise. Year 3, we landed our first major client, a regional hospital system that needed a complete digital overhaul. The contract was worth $180,000 more money than I'd made in the previous 3 years combined. The day the contract was signed, I paid off every single credit card. All $47 of debt from Ethan's medical school. I took Sarah out for dinner to celebrate. Not ramen or fast food, but a real restaurant with cloth napkins and wine that cost more than $8 a bottle. You know what's crazy? Sarah said, raising her glass. You built all this from nothing. Not from nothing I thought. From heartbreak and rage and the determination to never be that vulnerable again. Year 4 brought expansion. We had 12 employees and clients in 4 countries. I spoke at marketing conferences, was featured in trade publications, won awards for digital innovation in healthcare. But the thing I was most proud of was something that started as a casual conversation with Sarah. I've been thinking, I said one afternoon as we reviewed quarterly numbers. What if we use some of our success to help other women? What do you mean? Medical school. The costs, the barriers. What if we could fund someone's education the way I funded Ethan's, but actually see them succeed? The Pierce Women in Medicine Fund launched in September. Full-ride scholarships for women supporting themselves through medical school. No co-signers required. No family financial information needed. Just determination, academic merit, and a commitment to serving underserved communities after graduation. The application process was rigorous. Transcripts, recommendations, interviews, essays about overcoming obstacles and defining success. I reviewed every application personally. The 4th round of applications came in on a Tuesday. I was scrolling through the digital files when I saw a familiar name in the recommendation letter section. Dr. Ethan Michael Vale, Emergency Medicine Resident, UCLA Medical Center. My hands went still on the keyboard. He was recommending someone named Madison Chen, a second-year medical student at UCLA. His letter was glowing, describing her as exceptionally dedicated, brilliant under pressure, and the kind of physician who will transform healthcare. At the bottom in his signature block, it listed his personal email and a note. Currently supporting my partner through medical school. I understand firsthand the financial challenges these students face. His partner, he was doing it again. Some other woman was working multiple jobs, sacrificing her dreams, funding his girlfriend's education, while he played the supportive boyfriend. Madison Chen made it to the final round. Her application was genuinely impressive. Top 5% of her class, volunteering at free clinics research published in peer-reviewed journals. She was exactly the kind of student the fund was designed to support. The final interview was scheduled for a Friday afternoon via Zoom. I always conducted these personally. It was the most important part of the process. Madison logged in right on time. Professional blazer, confident smile, impeccable preparation. And there, blurred but unmistakable in the background, was Ethan. He was reading something on his phone, completely unaware that his ex-girlfriend was about to interview his current girlfriend for a scholarship worth $200,000. Hi, Madison, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm Naomi Pierce, founder of the Pierce Fund. Madison beamed. Thank you so much for this opportunity. The work you're doing is incredible. I'm curious about your support system. Medical school is challenging. How do you manage the financial and emotional stress? I'm really fortunate. My boyfriend Ethan is a resident, so he understands the pressure. And he's been amazing about helping with expenses when he can. In the background, Ethan looked up from his phone. I watched his face change as recognition hit. He went completely white. That's wonderful. I said, smiling directly at the camera. Having a partner who truly understands sacrifice makes all the difference. Ethan stood up abruptly and walked out of the frame. Madison looked confused, but continued talking about her goals and her commitment to primary care in underserved areas. I listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and took detailed notes. This was about her, not him. The interview ended 30 minutes later. "Thank you again," Madison said. "This fund represents everything I believe about supporting women in medicine. Thank you for your time. You'll hear from us within 2 weeks." Madison logged off. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk, Ethan." I deleted it without responding. Madison didn't get the scholarship. Not because of Ethan, but because during the final deliberation, we discovered she had family money. Her parents owned a successful restaurant chain and could afford to support her education. She'd simply never asked. The scholarship went to Maria Santos, a first-generation college student from East LA, who was working as a hospital housekeeper while attending medical school part-time. 3 weeks later, another text from Ethan. "I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. What you've built is amazing." I stared at the message for a long time. 7 years ago, I would have treasured those words. I would have read them as validation, as proof that I'd been worthy of his love all along. Now they felt like exactly what they were: too little, too late, and entirely irrelevant. I didn't respond.